Hello, hello, hello. Happy day, people. This is Tea and Cornbread, a conversation with Sean and Tracy. I am Sean Johnson. I am Tracy Davis-Johnson. And our podcast is about having conversations with people 50 and over, where they're talking about their wealth, their health, and their life changes. So like, share, and subscribe. Yes, now this is part 2 of our conversation with Dr. James Manny Wright, author of Heirs of the Great Migration, How the Past Became the Future. Hope you enjoy.
So it's interesting. So I've been in conversation with retired Judge Maurice Mosley.
Yeah.
Yep. So we've been talking a lot about this, and he recently just bought a bunch of books and gave them to, I don't want to put his business out in the street, like, and deny him his blessing, but he bought some of these books and giving them to some students in advance of me coming to Waterbury. Go and meet with some of the kids down on, I believe, State Street and Enlightenment, and I was trying to get the Wilby, but I couldn't. Something happened. I guess the day that I'm coming, I think the exams start that day, so I wasn't able to get into those schools. But he is giving these books away, and so that they can read them in advance, and then when I come, they're gonna ask me some questions, right? So it is kind of like a book report style, and he's under the impression that they're gonna gravitate to it, and so I'm looking forward to that, because I tell you this is something that's important, right? When I was writing this book, right, I gave it to like a lot of different people, like colleagues, and a couple of them that were white, and I remember some of the things that they were saying. These are like white colleagues that are that would be considered allies or whatever, but sometimes they're they don't really know either. They don't really know. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they know. They don't know what they don't know.
Don't know, right.
So I remember having this conversation with two, and they were a couple of them, and they were like, but the language is kind of like, it's kind of heavy, and it's like I'm like, listen, you don't really, I didn't say it at the time, but it dawned on me, I guess. It's like, you don't really know my people. You don't really know us. You don't know us, because when I was young, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was reading stuff like this, and I was like, if I wanted to read something like this when I was young, but and I would say that, and they'd be like, yeah, but they're not you. And I'm like, how you know? Right. How do you know? How do you know? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, how do you know? So the point is, I didn't take their advice either.
Right.
But it was noted that, wow, you really underestimate, like, y'all really underestimate us.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Y'all really don't get us.
No, but they don't care to.
Yeah, well, even if they do care, they just don't get it.
They don't get it.
And even when you try to tell them, they still just don't get it.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, man, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, these are people that are like allies, that are down. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm like, so.
Oh, I don't know what they seen was wrong. This was such a good read, and it was so honest and raw. I don't know what, if anything, they thought should have been changed or different. Honestly,
they just don't. Get
it's your truth. It's just your truth.
Right.
So what they wanted a lot.
I felt like they wanted, like, the language was too heavy or coarse for non-academics. It's like, that's how they put it, and I'm like, no.
Oh my goodness.
There you go with the books, though. There you go with the books. They go monitoring the books that they want us to use as education, or want us to tell our story.
Or they wanted him to dumb it down. They didn't think they would understand the language.
That's what I'm saying.
They didn't think they, like you said. But you know who said this best? I'll never forget when Sway interviewed Obama when he was running the first time. I'll never forget this. He was saying, what do you say to the people out there that are not going to vote for you? They're going to vote for Hillary. He said, I don't underestimate our people. He said, they don't know me. They want to get to know me. He says, in the older generation, they're praying for me. He said, but I don't underestimate our people.
He said, we don't just jump on the bandwagon, basically. I'm kind of paraphrasing there, but he definitely said, I don't underestimate our people.
No,
you know what I'm saying? And you just proved it with the statistics of 100 years of education, right? And then you think about all the different patents that were taken from us, all the different, we built this country literally. And you can't build this country literally by dumbing down anything. If anything, shut up, Sean. I'm about to go somewhere where I have to be careful now.
Well, it doesn't have to be dumbed down for us though. That's what we have to remind them, and we just have to keep moving forward.
Than you think.
Keep producing more Dr. Mannys out there, and educating our people. That's it.
Period, and that's it. But what I love about you is that you took a stand to make a difference.
Sean, it was bigger than me, and you know that, it was bigger than me. I just tried to be open to whatever was coming.
Right.
I tried to take advantage of the opportunities that presented themselves. And I think that's what I did. Like I wasn't scared. I was never scared to fail. Like I tell my kids all the time, say, you're not gonna win if you're scared to lose.
Right.
You can't win if you're scared to lose.
Right.
You know how many times I done bumped my head? I got scars. I got like real scars. You know what I'm saying? Like over my eyes, over both eyes. I done split my head so many times as a young kid.
Right.
And I'm just saying, like, I'm only saying that, like, most of these scars happen before the age of 15, 16. I had stitches here, stitches here, stitches here, stitches here, and stitches here.
Wow.
Before the ages of, this one happened when I was 20. But these were before the ages of 13. These 4.
Right.
On both eyes. And so, you can't be, you can't be scared to jump out there and take a chance, because that's the only way you're gonna find out.
And that you kind of answered my question down the middle at the end here. But the other thing I want to say too is when you're talking about your colleagues that are allies that don't understand because they don't know what they don't know. When you look at, I've met so many Black men that are scholars, right? So many. And we won't even talk about the women because that's all we know, really. You know what I'm saying? That's all we know. Even those that don't, quote unquote, have a degree, right? But when you look at, if you have them just take a step back and just look, even whether it matters or not, I don't know. But for them to just take a step back, because you all are more prevalent than not, right? We don't have to really look. Connecticut, you got to look for them. But when you go south, you don't really have to look for us. We're there, and we're out there. We're business owners. We're educators. We're all of that, and then some. On top, we're just leaders, period, right? Leaders. And if somebody wants to really, really show, like you were talking about Judge Mosley, one of the top leaders ever, right? And there were people that brought him up. Yeah. There were people that brought him up. And when I talk about, because he's my cousin, he's my grandmother's first cousin. And when we talk about this, and I go, yeah, but Waterbury wasn't what people depict it to be right now, right? It wasn't always that way. Yes, we all had knuckleheads in our families and things like that, but we still love them, still do what we got to do. They still had that same foundation that we have. Everybody just responds differently. You can 10 kids can grow up in the house. Not all 10 kids are going to end up the same, And when we think about that, we have to just keep reiterating that to people. You know what I mean? To our own people. Just keep reiterating it and letting them know, no, we come from excellence 100 years before. You know what I mean? Those 100 years, those statistics. Now, this can turn into a whole different conversation because I want to go more into statistics, but we'll have to do that another time. But that right there, I'm really interested in, because that it just proves that this is where we come from, that we come, it's in our blood. And people have to understand that it's in our blood. We don't need you to validate us. We don't need anyone to validate us. We were validated. You devalidated us by taking away from us, by burning down our cities, by, segregating us, by, just all of that.
So it's important, right, to understand, like if we just think about, hold on, let me get some water real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so I think it's important, just that last comment to talk about, Waterbury specifically. And, one of the things that I learned that I didn't know growing up was how prominent Waterbury was in the early 19th century, 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
It was the place to go. It was the place to be. It was, a manufacturer's dream. It was people who were looking for opportunities and willing to work. If you had access to Waterbury back in the day, that was the place to go. People were, everybody couldn't go to Detroit, mm-hmm. or, you know what I'm saying? Or like, but like if you could come to Waterbury, that was like one of the top alternatives.
Right.
Because people leaving Jim Crow and leaving sharecropping and leaving, this is the thing. So you have people in the South, our relatives who were in the South before they came up north, at whatever point they came north. Some of them had degrees, like Judge Mosley was talking about how, I think he said his parents, both of them had college degrees, like in the 1920s or something like that. So they came from the South with college degrees in the 1920s. And I know other people too who left not that early, but later, mm-hmm. Who had degrees from like HBCUs from like the 1950s, and they couldn't get jobs in the South. Yeah. Right. The only places that will hire Black educated people in the South were the school system. So that tells you something else about our schools.
Yeah.
So there were people with biology degrees and engineering degrees who couldn't get jobs anywhere in their industry except the school system. Right. So the Black schools have some of the highest educated Black folks. And another thing about the Black people in the school system in the South, there was a loophole in the Jim Crow system, right? So they said, if you were a teacher, right, in the Jim Crow schools in the South, and you wanted to do a master's degree, right? So the state would pay, like you had to go to HBCU, right? So, but if the HBCU didn't have your major, the state would pay for you to go somewhere else.
Oh, wow.
Instead of just letting you integrate the school, they would pay for you to go somewhere else. So these Black educators was going to the University of Michigan. They were going to University of Columbia. They were going to these elite universities getting these master's degrees in education. Wow. And coming back to the segregated school system in the South and running circles around the competition.
Yeah, absolutely.
The educational system was unbelievable. So it's a myth when they talk about our education, was subpar. Yeah, there were some examples of it probably wasn't up to standard, but there were a lot of other examples where they were leading the region, leading the state that they were, and there was a lot more of those examples. Right. So it was a mixed bag. And at the end of the day, all of them nurtured young Black kids. Mm-hmm. Right. That's the invaluable point. And so when we talk about Waterbury, we talk about a place where people, from that cloth, were migrating to Waterbury and going and working in those factory jobs. They were going to working in those factory jobs, right? Because there was opportunities there that didn't exist for them in the South. And so by the time that, at least when I came of age, all those factory jobs are gone. So I don't understand why do we live here? What made you? I understand my mother was born in North Carolina. So I'm just curious. Why are we here? Why are we in Waterbury? I don't understand. I don't know the history. Nobody ever taught me how significant it was and how big of a deal it was and how it transformed their lives. You know what I'm saying? But so I just didn't know. I don't know. And a lot of us don't know. And so I think that, you know, a lot of the lost hope in Waterbury is compounded by the lack of that knowledge on top of, I mean, I'm saying this, and I unapologetically, the abject failure of the Waterbury public school system. I repeat, the abject failure of the Waterbury public school system when it comes to us. Definitely. Right? I make no apologies for that. You know what I'm saying? So what's happening in our schools is compounded by the lack of history, some of it on our part, a lot of it on the parts of the Waterbury public school system, and just the systemic structures of the system. Like I could go on and on about that, but it's just we are compounded, and this is the last point I'm gonna make on this. We're compounded to the point where a lot of us think this is a new thought in Black American history, like that's probably 20 or 30 years old. Some of us think that education don't mean nothing. Where did this come from? This is not part of our legacy. This is not part of who we are. This is you. If you know anything about Black history, nothing about that is true. Nope. Nothing about that is true. When Black folks got out, when slavery ended in 1865, Black folks did two things. The first two things they did was they built churches and they built schools. The first two things they did, they built churches and they built schools. Didn't know the first thing about pedagogy, curriculum, or nothing, but they figured it out. And before you know it, they had a 100-year institution, and they produced some of the best thinkers that the world has ever seen in the last 400 or 500 years. That segregated school system. So where you going? So you can't tell me. So this is a new thing. This is a new thing that a lot of us post Brown versus Board, after desegregation, once we started to integrate the white schools, a lot of Black folks have adopted this philosophy that education don't mean nothing. Man, please. Where'd that come from? Not only that, but we don't need doctors. We don't need lawyers. We don't need people to run for public office. We don't need what? How are you going to get that? We don't need plumbers. We don't need electricians.
Yep. But this is how it happens, these conversations. Us sitting here having these discussions. Again, you educating as you do in the school system as you work, even though you're at a higher level than our K through 12 people, young men and women, but we do have to each one teach one. That's what we have to get back to. We have to look out for each other. We're not doing that. And we do have to get back to that. And like Sean said earlier, we have to reinforce to them, to our children, how important they are, how smart they are. And don't let anyone take that away from them, because we all know education is important. And like you said, you're right. We're slacking. We're missing the doctors, the lawyers.
But in fairness, I understand why they say that. They're saying that because the school system is not embracing that.
Not at all.
It's not relevant to them. So I get it. I was a part of that crowd at one point. You know what I'm saying? Like I get it, right? But both things are true. That needs to be said as well.
So what? Go ahead.
Another question. I know we've been up here for a while, but what does it look like for you? You had mentioned in the book too, not to get too deep into this. I think it was Dr. Muhammad had encouraged you to kind of reach back or give back. What does that look like you for our youth? Maybe not even just our youth, kind of a two-folded question. What about our men over 50 who feel like there is no change or there's nothing they can do differently? How would you speak to them, or how would you encourage them to do things different or to focus on something that's important to them?
I fundamentally believe in Black folks, like for real. Like I believe in us. I believe in Black people. You can't tell me that we can't do something, because I've been told all my life. I've been told and I've been shown all my life that I can't do something. I've had literal and physical obstacles placed in front of me all of my life. So you can't tell me I can't do something, and I'm an extension of everybody that looks like me. We from the same cloth, like a lot of us. We the same clan.
Right.
So how I'm not gonna believe in, that's just like me not believing in myself. So I believe in us, and so it starts with everybody wherever they are. You got to meet people where they are. You know what I'm saying? So if you over 50, and maybe maybe you don't have aspirations to go back to school, that's fine. You don't have to. But don't be putting in your kids' mind that they don't need to go. They need to do something, right? They don't have to go. They need a goal. You know what I'm saying? Support
their goal.
Your kid need a goal. Your child needs a goal, and the kids around you, they need goals. Support their goals, whether those goals are for them to go to school or whether it's for them to do something else. Support their goals. Oh man, I'm sorry.
That's all right. You good? You good? I was laughing. I always say, when your child is young, by the time they're 5 years old, what they gravitate to, what they like, what they or by the time they're 10, what they really, really like. So you introduce them to things. So say sports, or if you introduce them to reading, or you introduce them to music, you just have to introduce them to a lot of things and see what they gravitate to. And when they gravitate to it, then you hone in on that and you foster that. That's how they have to be shown in that way. They have to be shown in that way that it's possible for them to do what it is that they like to do right now.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. It's possible. You know what I mean? And like you said, and I love how you just said it. You was like, I believe in us. I'm the same way. I believe in us. Because you know what? There was no us without somebody before us showing us and teaching us. And then when you listen to people's stories, because I'm a hairdresser, so I hear people's stories all the time. And some you wonder how they even made it through, and then you have some that's like they had a leg up from day one, but not everybody's circumstances is the same, but everybody can get up. Everybody can get up. Everybody have at least one opportunity or more, and being able to identify that opportunity makes a difference too, And I have to tell you this one story. There's a girl that's in my life right now, and she said to me, and she told me I could tell the story. She said to me that she was homeless in high school, and she said, do you remember going to high school with me? And I went to Cana. That's where I experienced most racism. I didn't, Princess will tell me something different, but that's where I experienced it. But I had a mission, get my hairdressing license and get up out of there. That's what I had to do, right? But I played basketball, I played sports and this, that, and other. So long story short, she said, you didn't even know that I was living out of my locker. She says, but there was one day we were in the locker room and the kids were teasing me. She said, because I didn't have good hygiene or whatever. So the kids were teasing me, and you went through, you were going past and you said, shut up and leave her alone. And you just kept on going. And she says, and you didn't know me. You stuck up for me. And nobody bothered me from that point on. And I said, okay, I said, I don't remember that. I said, but that's who I was. I stuck up for us. You know what I'm saying? Like I stuck up for the underdog, and things like that. So when you think about this, it's like you have to tell your kids these stories. Now I have one question. Did your kids read your book? Have your kids read your book?
No, it's funny. They like my oldest started reading it, and then he didn't read it. He
wasn't interested.
Yeah, but it's like I'm their dad. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they get all this stuff in so many different ways.
Right.
I mean, it's not new for them. They take it for granted. It's like I tell them all the time. I'm like, it's like, yo, man, one day, I tell them like this. I said, like, I think they just get like tone deaf at some point. It's like they just, because I'm always saying stuff to them, and you know what I mean. And so, but I tell them this. I say, listen, one or two things is gonna happen when you get older. I guarantee you. I can't make many guarantees, but I guarantee you that you're gonna come to a point in your life where you're gonna say one of two things. You either gonna say, I'm glad I listened to my father, or I wish I would have listened to my father. I don't know which one. But you're gonna say one of those two things.
That is guaranteed.
But sometimes when they act like they're not paying attention, in the long run, they paying attention. Because we listen to we hear our parents and be like, I'm not gonna be that parent. At the end of the day, you doing stuff your mother and father did, and you like, I said I wasn't gonna do that. And you your lessons, my oldest had told me that before. I may act like I'm not paying attention, but I'm paying attention. So they like they not listening to you, Manny, Dr. Wright, but they listening.
Yeah. Dad, right? Like you said, I'm their dad. I'm just their dad. You may be cool to everybody else out there, superstar, but I'm your dad. But as they get older, they'll and then you'll see one that has more of your characteristics and following in your footstep, and things like that. But they definitely, I know, like you said, either they're gonna say, I wish I listened to him, or I'm glad I listened to him. Either way, they're gonna say it, right? But we already know that the foundation is strong. They have a solid, concrete foundation, and that makes a big difference. And then because they were raised or born in Egypt, right? They were born in Egypt, and they came over here and they got a different experience. I know you talk about that in the book. I won't give it away, but they have a different experience here. But the good thing is they're able to navigate it because of the foundation. And that right there is key all the way around. It's key, is making sure that they have that foundation.
I know. Yeah. We've been talking for a while. So tell us, Manny, what's next? I'm so sorry. Tell us, Dr. Wright, what's next? What's next? What you doing? Well, so what's next for you?
Okay, so I'm coming to Waterbury on I'll be there June 9th and 10th. So the 9th, I'm going to be going to a couple of the schools, talking to some of the kids. And then on the 10th, there's a book conversation, or like a conversation around the book, that's going to be sponsored by the Afro-Caribbean Cultural Center downtown. They invited me. They invited me to come, and then it just evolved into just like this event. At first it was just going to be a book signing and a meet and greet, and then it turned into a book talk, and with a book talk and a Q&A, and now it's evolved into like a broader discussion with a moderator and a panel about like different generations from Waterbury who migrated to Waterbury. It's going to be something.
Nice.
Yeah, that is.
It's going to be something. This is going to be.
What did you say the time? I didn't. If you did, I missed it. I'm sorry.
It's June 10th, Saturday, June 10th at 11. So we're gonna have, so it's gonna be a book talk and a Q&A, and then it's going to be a panel of individuals from Waterbury from different generations who will talk about Waterbury, in its heyday, who migrated to Waterbury at different points, and people who were pillars in the community, and they'll talk about like their migration and the different, seeing Waterbury in its heyday and what it did for them. And and these are elders of ours, and just
educating. We need to educate our people,
and then just to get it all in one space.
Yes.
So it's gonna be powerful, and and I'm also working on. I'm not like this is a world premiere,
Yes.
I'm working on a documentary, and so
awesome.
So all of these stories, all of these people and their conversations will be a part of this this documentary, documenting these migration stories and the part that Waterbury played, because people don't know about Waterbury. They don't know about us. They don't know about, like, we're like the lost city of Atlantis. You know what I'm saying? No, I mean, but there's and we know, like people from Waterbury know, we know
Right.
the gems that came out of that town. We know.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
rest of the country don't know.
Right.
But like, but where they do know, they know. Like I was in Atlanta and I found myself in some trouble, and I met some people, and they was like, "Where you from, young blood?" I was like, "I'm from Connecticut." He's like, "You from Waterbury?" I was like, "Yeah." And I tell you, it was like
Just that
Wow.
quick.
and I'm telling you, he
Wow.
could have said any city in the country. He should have said any city in the state. He said,
said what?
You from Waterbury? Now I could have. Imagine if I'd have lied and been like, because like some people they'd be like, "Yo, I'm from New York."
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm from Connecticut. I'm from Waterbury, Connecticut. Wherever I go, I'm from Waterbury, Connecticut. Whether you
Yes.
know about it or not. So if I'm the introduction to it, then fine.
Right.
Right.
Right. Wow.
So yeah. So
Awesome. Awesome. You
documentary.
said you're doing big things. You are doing big things. We are so proud of you. And we hope this reaches many more people, not just this podcast, this book, your documentary. I hope people come out, listen to you on the 10th too. We definitely gonna try to make it down there.
Yes.
Sean and I.
I hope y'all do. I hope y'all do.
At least to get a hug.
Okay, good. Yeah, you know, if you can't come, if you can't stay, please just come through. Just so I want to, I need to lay eyes on y'all, and you know what I'm saying, and that'll be good.
Yes,
it's so
definitely.
crazy when I asked you to do this, and then I found out that you were going to be there. I was like, what? Okay. You know what I mean? So this was right on time. Right on time. And I thank you again for saying yes. Thank you again for saying yes. I also mentioned it at the museum today. At the Mattituck Museum, I mentioned it, and the guy says, "Oh yeah, he's from Waterbury." He's like, "Yeah, it's one of the best sellers on Amazon." I said, "Yeah, did you get it?" So we're definitely spreading the word, and I have one more question for you. Tell that, even though we already kind of talked over it, but I want you to be intentional. Talk to that young Manny that's out there and tell them what one step that they can do between just one thing that they can change in their life right now. And then that 50-year-old Manny, Dr. Wright, not Manny, Dr. Wright, right? What would you tell that man that feels like they're too old to even pursue their dream? They've been dreaming about something forever and ever and ever, tried it, stopped, their dreams were crushed and this, that, and other, whatever, and then they just gave up. What would you say to that person?
One of my homeboys told me, and we had an argument about this, and now I can safely say that he was right. But at the time, I kind of pushed back. But he told me, he was very harsh about on Black folks. I'm the ever defender of Black people, by the way. And he was really harsh. He said, "Man, we always start stuff and we don't finish." And he said, "We start stuff," and he's like, "That's one of the biggest critiques I had." But he was a lot more harsher than I think he needed to be. But he was right. And so, and he said that, and I took it personal. I took it personal because I think I was guilty of that a lot. And I never thought about it that way. And so, and this was somebody who I had looked up to a lot, who had, accomplished a whole lot, right? And I had a whole lot of respect for it. And so I at that moment, I was in Egypt, by the way. This is somebody, African American, that I met while I was in Egypt, New York City. And he said, and he planted that seed. And so I took that personal, and I made that my calling card. I'm not doing nothing that I don't finish. I'm not starting nothing I don't finish. And so for that young kid, that young Manny that's out there, believe in yourself, bet on yourself, and you can accomplish anything, man. And it's not gonna be easy. Yeah, the cards are stacked against us. Like, there's no doubt about that. That's not an excuse. That's the reality. You know what I'm saying? That's the reality. But, you know, bet on yourself. You know what I'm saying? Take chances, do whatever you got to do. You know what I'm saying? To reach whatever goal you set for yourself. And let your goal be something that your parents and your folks that cared about you and that nurtured you and that want the best for you, make that goal be something that they'll be proud of. You know what I'm saying? For that young kid. Because I, as a youngster, whether I had the language or not, I always wanted to make my mother proud. And when I went to, you know, when I got jammed up in Georgia and she had to, you know, drive 1,000 miles away to see me in a bad predicament, you know what I'm saying? That broke my heart. And so when I was able to walk across that stage 3 times and get my bachelor's degree and then my master's degree and then my PhD, and she was there every single time. You know, she was there every single time. She, you know, she was in bad shape, and when she came to Michigan, she was, you know, she had cancer, and she was not going. She was no way she was missing that.
Nothing stopping her.
Her baby, that's right.
Well, so, you know, just knowing that I made her proud is, you know, that's what I'll say to that young boy. You know, make somebody that cared about you, you know, proud. And then for the older, you know, the older crew, you know what I'm saying? Whatever your goals are, make and set some realistic goals and then go after them. And if you got kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, encourage them to read. Encourage them to read. Because that's what I did. I used to read. I was a young kid watching, like, y'all remember Like It Is? Used to come on Channel 7, New York. Okay.
Oh, so Like It Is?
Yeah, the show with Gil Noble. It was a show that came on ABC. It was based out of New York. Gil Noble was the host. And he used to have these like all of these African American scholars. Like, Gil Noble interviewed everybody from Assata Shakur in the 80s, 60s civil rights leaders, to all sorts of every kind of African American Black scholar, like, you know, psychology. He had all the scholars and all. Like, this show came on every Sunday, and as a little kid, I would sit down in front of my TV unprompted. Nobody told me to do it. I would watch this show every Sunday as a little kid, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I was a teenager, you know, and Gil Noble just died recently. So I used to watch shows like that. I used to watch Tony Brown's Journal. You know what I'm saying? I used to watch these shows. I was critically listening to, like, you know, conscious rap. I was listening to Chuck D. I was listening to them. I was listening to that. And that's how I was motivated to learn. And I was reading. I was picking up books and I was reading. Nobody necessarily knew this about me. If you knew me, you knew. But if you didn't really know me, if you knew of me, you didn't know this about me. You know what I'm saying? And so, but this was a big part of my upbringing. Even when I was running around in the streets, I was reading. You know,
very important, and that's another thing we need to push on our children and make sure they're reading.
Set realistic goals for these older guys, man. Realistic goals for yourself, and encourage your kids and the young kids that's looking up to you. Encourage them to read.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, you know, we can keep going and going and going. And I want to thank you. I thank you for setting that time.
We thank you.
Us. Yeah, I thank you for setting that time for us. Okay, tell us where we can get your book. Tell us where people can get your book, and if you have any type of merchandise or whatever, and I'll make sure that it's in the description also.
Yeah, so right now the book is, you can find the book on Amazon.com. You know, you can type in Heirs of the Great Migration. Heirs of the Great Migration.
Yes.
Yeah.
How the past became the future, right? So you can find it on Amazon. You can also, I have merchandise. I have, you know, these t-shirts. I have hoodies. You can find them also on I have to send you the link because I think I sent it to you. But if you can put
your website.
So
I'll put it in the description.
Yep. So you can find the merchandise there, and it'd be nice for people if they want to buy it and they're interested a lot. I have gotten a lot of requests for the merch especially the hoodies. If you want to buy them and wear them at the event, or just buy them and just show love, just all of that's appreciated.
Okay. Awesome. Are you going to have any at the event with you?
I will have books. I will have some shirts. I'll have some hoodies, just for whoever's interested.
All right. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you. To go ahead, Trey. I know you get ready to say something.
No. I was saying it sounds good. Everything that he just merchandise and stuff. Very good.
Thank you again. Thank you. And I pray and wish you all the best.
Yes.
All that is happening and all the blessings that are coming your way that you've already achieved and obtained, but more flooded your way because you're walking in your purpose. And if nobody doesn't see it, God does.
Yes.
No doubt.
Thank you. Love you. And this was your 59 What? Tea and Cornbread conversation with Tracy and Sean. And we had the magnificent Dr. James Manny Wright.
Yes.
Heirs of the migration. I'm saying the words wrong. I've been saying it all day, right? Heirs of the Great Migration. Thank you. Listen, like, share, follow. If you have any comments on this episode, if you read the book, share your thoughts, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great and blessed, amazing day.
Afro-Caribbean Cultural Center presents Dr. James Manny Wright, Heirs of the Great Migration, book signing and community conversation.
Queens, Connecticut. What up, Waterbury? Yo, I'll be in town on June 10th for a book signing / a book talk for my new book, Heirs of the Great Migration, How the Past Became the Future. The folks down at the Afro-Caribbean Cultural Center invited me, so I want as many people as possible across the tri-state, across Connecticut, especially Waterbury. Yo, come through. It's going to be a celebration. I want cross generations. I want, bring your kids, bring your grandkids, bring your aunts and uncles. I want different generations to come as a celebration. Let's get together. Let's talk. Let's hash it out. Let's love on each other. Bring all your good vibes. Bring all your good energy. I'm a native son. So come through, show love. I look forward to seeing everybody.